All right, stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, July 17th. If you have any questions, concerns, come up to the microphone here and give us your name and address and tell us what's on your mind. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Peter,
Here.
Gottler,
Here.
Hoofa,
Here.
Paul,
Here.
Blatt,
Here.
Councilmember Laporte and Volz are absent.
Make a motion to excuse member Laporte and Volz.
Ordered.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Number 4, consent agenda. A, City Council minutes of July 3rd, 2023, regular meeting recommendation approved. B is the Board of Cemetery Trustees minutes of June 6th, 2023, meeting recommendation received. Golf Commission minutes of June 13th, 2023, recommendation received. And Planning Commission minutes of June 14th, recommendation received.
Motion to approve A through D as presented.
Ordered.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go to number 5. This is the public hearing for the Christian B. Haas special assessment roll. I'll open the public hearing at this time, and I'll make note that Member Laporte is now present. Anything from the public on the Christian B. Haas special assessment roll? Justin, do you want to say anything about this, or? All right. If there's no other public questions or comments, I will close the public hearing, and we'll move to 6. Ordinance resolution. A, ordinance adoption 2023-01 zoning purpose. Mr. Bishop.
This was a carryover from the last conversation we had about the ordinance of the City of St. Clair to amend Appendix B of the city's Code of Ordinances zoning, Article 1, and also to update and revise sections 1.2, 1.3, and 1.6. I spoke on this at the last meeting. This is the official action to change the ordinance. Just as a quick a note on that, Attorney Downey has reviewed this. We've also reviewed this with Skirdo, and we have made all the recommended revisions and adjustments, and so this is its final copy after both General Counsel has reviewed it.
This was basically changing language, right?
Yes, it was.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Support.
All right, the motion's made, support. Questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Gottler,
Yes.
Hoofa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Blatt,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
ordinance adopted.
Thank you. We'll go to B, ordinance introduction adoption 2023 DWRSF authorization of bonds. Mr. Colas.
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. So what you have before you is kind of the last step. Remember, we started probably last fall with adopting the notices of intent. This is for the water project. And again, a large portion of this project qualifies for funding through the state. And as part of that, just over $2.7 million of the project will be funded by dollars provided by the American Rescue Plan. So when people ask, like, how do those dollars get to communities through the American Rescue Plan, a lot of it is through this state program, through the drinking water program. The state also has another program for sewer projects called the Clean Water Program. So a lot of the funding for those American Rescue Plan dollars is coming through the state. In addition to that, the state is providing a low-interest loan for a portion of the project. If you remember, originally, the city was the last community that a portion of the project was being funded from the state's, what they call their fundable range. So in essence, all the communities that have projects submit applications to the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. They have a scoring system, and they figure out, based on that scoring system, what projects qualify, and how much money they have to fund those projects. The city was the very last one on that list, and at the time, the state was only able to fund a small portion of the project. So if you remember, I came back, we talked about 3 basic sources of funding for this project. One is the ARP grant, again, $2.7 million. One is the state loan program, and the other is going to be the city potentially issuing capital improvement bonds on its own to fund the remainder of the project. So kind of those 3 sources of funds. The state came back and said, hey, we're willing to fund more through the loan program, so the balance of what we were going to issue has changed. In addition to that, bids have come in on the project, and unfortunately, the bids have come in higher than expected. So what you have before you is authorization to issue the bonds that are going to be bought by the state, so through the drinking water program. That's a 20-year financing. The interest rate is 1.875%. So these bonds are issued pursuant to the Revenue Bond Act. Again, we're following the procedures. That starts with the notice of intent that gets published. We actually did 2 notices of intent. We did the original one, then we supplemented that notice. And then ultimately, the bonds are actually authorized by a bond ordinance. So unlike traditional ordinances, like the one you just read and approved, which was probably introduced at a prior meeting and then read today, a bond ordinance can be read in a single reading pursuant to the Revenue Bond Act. And the reason for that is time is of the essence when you're doing bond issues. We have this state program, so we're following their schedule. Bids have been opened. The contracts need to be awarded, bonds authorized, and then Eagle provides their final order of approval the first week of August. So the time from when bids come in to when we need to actually have everything adopted by council is very short, which doesn't allow for a normal process. So that's why the Revenue Bond Act says bond ordinances can be adopted at their first introduction and in a subsequent meeting. And that's even if there's contrary charter provisions. However, you don't have a contrary charter provision. Your charter provides for emergency ordinances to be adopted on an emergency basis if there's a health issue. Again, this is related to the city's water system, and time is of the essence here. So the city attorney has reviewed the ordinance, provided some additional language that I incorporated into that. So the ordinance is in form that satisfies the charter provisions and the Revenue Bond Act. So in essence, the ordinance authorizes a series of bonds to be issued in an amount not to exceed $8.7 million. We think the dollar amount's going to be right about 8.68, so just shy of that. The final amount will be determined by Eagle in their order of approval. That will also include the ARP grant funds. So we'll see, and we know exactly what those dollars are. We just want to confirm that that'll be part of the order of approval. So it authorizes a series of bonds through the state's drinking water program. The ordinance is rather lengthy because it provides for the security of the bonds, which is revenues of the system. So that's the sole security for the bonds is revenues of the system. It also provides for the accounting of the revenues of the system. So the Revenue Bond Act says when you issue bonds, we want you to control your revenues in a manner where you're operating the system in a functioning fashion because you're pledging revenues of that system to pay debt service. So there's a receiving fund where all your revenues come in. You probably already count for them separately anyways. And then you pay operation and maintenance expenses and then debt service on your bonds. So the ordinance has a section in there on how the accounts flow for the revenues of your system to provide for the issuance of revenue bonds. It also authorizes certain officers to sign the final documents with the state. There'll be a couple of certificates. There'll be a purchase contract where the state will send a purchase contract saying, we agree to buy the city's bonds at these rates, and the rate's 1.875% for the life of the bond issue. That rate's set. It doesn't change. If the city actually has funds available at a later date to repay them early, they can repay them early with the authority's consent to do so. Happy to answer any questions. Again, we talked about that last segment, the capital improvement bonds, because right now between the grant funds and the city's also getting an EPA grant, I believe about $970,000 if I'm not mistaken for that. Let me just...
970.
Is that correct? Yeah, I think that's right. Which will also go to fund the project too. So happy to answer any questions on that.
How much are we getting from the state loan program?
The state loan program is about $8,680,000.
Tom, so is it 20 years? Is 20 years locked in, or could we choose 30 years?
You could choose 20 or 30 years. We've set it up for the 20-year refinancing, but the city can decide which one it wants to choose.
Does the interest rate change for the 30-year?
Because this, I don't know if I don't believe it's going to change for the city. The 30-year rate is typically 2 1/8, but that's only for disadvantaged communities. And I don't have the sheet here that has whether the city is considered a disadvantaged community. I don't think you are. So the rate would go to 2.125%.
It would raise it 2.125 for 30 years?
Yes.
I see the payment schedule starts October 1st, 2025, and ends October 1st, 2044.
Correct.
20 year. Maybe I'm just missing something, but the principal amount in the first payment is $360, and at the end it's $515.
Right, so if you look at the comp, so what we're trying to set up is a level debt service payment. So when you're factoring in what interest is due that year, the idea is from a budgeting standpoint, I don't know if you have that sheet, if you look at the far right column, it says total principal and interest requirements.
I don't, but
Okay, so
see
that number basically would provide for you a level debt service when you factor in both principal and interest to be paid in that fiscal year. That's relatively the same every year. So from a budgeting standpoint, you're budgeting that same amount annually for the life of the bond issue. So in essence, as the principal goes from $360,000 to $515,000, the average principal and interest payment for each fiscal year is about $520,000. So that stays steady. It fluctuates about $5,000, but it stays steady throughout the life of the bond issue. And the reason you don't see principal starting until October of 2025 is that the state program allows you to wait until the project's completed before you start paying principal back. The city will start paying interest once it starts drawing funds, and interest is paid semi-annually, April and October, and you only pay interest on that part that you draw. So let's just say the first year, as the project gets started, you only draw $1 million. Well, even though we're going to ultimately borrow up to 8.6, you're only paying interest on that portion that you draw. Once the project's totally completed, then the state will send you a final debt service schedule that has everything included in it. So the one that you see is kind of on the high side because that assumes you're going to draw everything down on day one, which you're really not. These bonds are set up where you don't get all the proceeds and put into a construction fund on day one and start earning interest. The state's reimbursing invoices that are paid as the project goes along.
Almost like a line of credit?
Almost like a line of credit in that sense. So what you end up doing is we call this a drawdown financing. And the state requires you to build in a contingency. If you don't spend the contingency, then at the end of the day, we reduce the principal amount and you only pay back what you've drawn down. So a lot of time, we use the phrase not to exceed because we expect it to be this dollar amount, but again, if the project comes in more efficiently, you don't use all the contingency, that dollar amount reduces. It can't go above that because the state's not willing to finance that part, but it can be reduced, and then the state will send you a new schedule once you've completed construction of the project.
I'm quite certain I know the answer to this, and I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So this bond sale here for the 8.7 is of no consequence generally is for the other 6.5 that we got to figure out.
Correct.
That's what I thought. I was afraid.
Right. So there's that third piece of financing that still needs to be done. And again, instead of doing that right now, so the way that the state program works is as you're drawing down your funds, the first thing you're going to use is the grant money to the project. And again, that's $2.7 million. So depending upon how quickly your construction project's going to start, it may take you a little time to draw those funds down. Then you're drawing down the loan money. Again, the state calls it a loan, but they're buying your bonds. So that's, again, almost 8.6 and change, $1 million. That might take you a year or two, or maybe a year to draw down some of that. Then the remainder of the project needs to be funded from those capital improvement bonds. So what we don't want to do is issue them now, and then you just sit on them and have to pay interest on them. Even though you can earn a little bit of interest in the construction fund, if you get all those funds now, unlike the state program where you're drawing them down as you need them, when you sell bonds out in the market, all the money comes in on the closing date, and it sits in a construction fund. And you have to pay the bondholders interest on the full amount from day one that you receive the funds.
While we're drawing down on the first part of this, the 8.7, Could we, in effect, be applying for another Drinking Water Safety Revolving Fund loan that would be the 1.87 to finish off that 6.5? Since we're not getting to that 6.5 till 2 years down the road, maybe?
It's possible. That's a good question. I think that your engineers might be able to answer better than I am. But again, to the extent that there's other funding that, whether that be more grant funds, whether that be more loan dollars coming from the state, again, to qualify for next year's state fiscal year program, so remember, the state operates on October 1 fiscal year basis, and you have to submit project plans in advance to get on that list, to get ranked. I don't know if
We have done that. So
Yep.
for fiscal year '24, we took the difference of the $6.5 million. We've resubmitted the plans, and we're having it rescored. And so as a separate project, for the difference of the $6.5 million, they're rescoring the project, and if funds are available, we'll be put into the ranking for those additional funds.
So they did put in, there's a new scoring system too, so there were some changes that went into effect that will take effect this fiscal year for the state. So even though the city qualified in this current pool, this current fiscal year, not sure whether it'll qualify again in the future, and if it does, when I mean qualify, I mean where is it going to rank on that list? And whether that's within a range that the state is willing to fund or has the ability to fund those projects.
So, Tom, when we make this motion for this, do we make the motion to introduce and adopt?
Yep,
All in one vote?
all in one vote. I will say, so when I do bond ordinances, this is the only format we follow. So we're always introducing bond and adopting bond ordinances on the initial reading. So it's not unusual. It's not like we're doing this out of the ordinary. It might be here for the city because you don't do a lot. This is one of the, I think, the only bond ordinance you might have adopted at this particular time. You have no outstanding revenue bonds. But this is the normal procedure that we follow with every community.
Other questions for Tom?
Make a motion to approve. Support.
All right, the motion is made and supported to introduce and adopt the DWRSF authorization of bond sales to the tune of $8.7 million. Questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Hoofa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Blatt,
Yes.
Gatler,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Go to see Resolution 2327, CBH, authorization of special assessment. Bishop.
Real quick. So this is in regards to Christian B. Haas. The authorization of the special assessment for a total project cost of $332,000. The city has agreed to pay $100,000 towards this cost, and the remaining balance will be paid by the 77 property owners, evenly distributed with the option to pay back in either 1 or 5 years. The assessor has created the roll. We've had time to review it. The assessing office from St. Clair County is here today if there's any other questions. And what we are looking to do is to proceed with Christian B. Haas. In order to do that, we need the resolution passed.
Nothing has changed from,
Nothing has changed. The price has not changed. We actually have the contractor on standby, just waiting for the green light to go.
and he's been awarded the project?
He has been awarded the project.
All right, I'll make a motion to
No,
approve.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
not.
We're gonna-
We shall do that.
We should do that.
Once we pass this resolution, then we can
Pass the,
award the bid.
okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Supported.
All right, motion based, supported, questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Blatt,
Yes.
Gatler,
Yes.
Hoofa,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, so now I'll ask for a motion to award the contract.
So moved.
Supported.
I guess we should probably, can you give me the exact number of the
You
contract?
gotta re-identify who,
JP?
yeah, it was Priest.
JP Prees,
JP,
$332,650.70.
James P. Contracting.
James Peak, is it Peak?
Yes, well, yeah, that's correct.
All right, the motion made, supported, questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Flat,
Yes.
Gatler,
Yes.
Pufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to D, Resolution 2328, award of water treatment plant improvement contract. Mr. Bishop.
This is a resolution to tentatively award a construction contract to Weiss Construction. They were the bidder of the project. The original low bid amount came back at $19,789,000 from Weiss Construction. After reviewing and negotiation with Weiss Construction, a modified project scope was created. We were able to find a savings of about $2.7 million. So the reduction amount is $17,039,000. The engineer Fishbeck has recommended awarding this contract to the low bidder.
Where's that list of $2.7 million worth of stuff? Is that what I got before the meeting?
Yes, so the $2.7 million came in a reduction of two specific items. The first one and the most expensive item in a reduction is called a flock set. That particular flock set has no bearing on our ability to create enough water to supply the city. It has no bearing on the quality of the water. It has everything to do with our ability for even more future expansion. Because we are just anticipating a growth from 2 million gallons per day to 3 million gallons per day, that additional flock set is not necessary at this time. That's what saved the majority of the cost.
What exactly is a flock set,
That's a great question for Tom Fountain.
Tom Fountain?
And
That's
you-
something we can add on at a later date? or-
It was designed for the additional flock set tank. So if we were to go back to it, the building would have the capacity to hold
It
that.
would have the capacity?
There are other items that have been reduced. For example, there was a driveway that was supposed to be installed. That would have been a concrete driveway. This is no longer. This will be a gravel driveway, so that saves $100,000 as well.
And this project will begin in the fall?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
I got a question, Quentin.
Yes, John?
Is it unusual, this type of work, to only have one bid? I mean, is this, because you would think every municipality has got the same situation and to different degrees, right? So you would think that there'd be a lot more companies out there that would want this business.
Yeah, Mr. Colas alluded to it earlier when he had said that we were a project that was basically the lowest scored on the list. All those other projects had been funded, had been bid, and then contractors had been awarded those contracts. From the time that we had been taken off the list, got back on the list for the 8 million, those contracts have been, like I said, we were the very last of the table. What they're not finding is a normal bidding process where you have 4 or 5 companies. It's not a road project. These are very highly specialized companies that specialize in these types of projects. Us being the last to the table brought in one bid, and that was actually hard to come by.
So it's in our best interest to
Welcome back, Mr. Colas.
Yeah, sorry, I know this isn't my agenda item, but anecdotally, we're working with a lot of communities, and even though those communities that aren't on the fundable range, they still want to do their projects, they're going out and seeking other financing sources. Again, maybe they're issuing their own debt outside of the program. So we're seeing on a lot of our projects, one bid, a lot of no bids, and having to rebid projects. So everybody is trying to get at federal dollars. Everybody's got projects going. So everybody's got plans all ready to go. And so the contractors are really having a hard time covering everything. So we're seeing a lot of projects bid with just one bid or 0 bids and having to rebid and retime everything.
Have you seen other municipalities that had to rebid?
Yes.
Due to one contractor?
Not necessarily that they've rebid due to one contractor, but a lot have had to go out and rebid because of 0 and had to redo project scope and try to figure out how to get bid. We have one right now where they're in this 4th quarter financing, which is the last quarter of the state. And so they're struggling to make sure they can get a project that can actually qualify and get bids.
So we're pretty lucky to have one bidder.
I think a bid, if it's from a good contractor that your engineer's comfortable with, is, I think you go with it.
Right.
Like, yeah.
All right, is the motion being supported?
I made it, and it has not been supported.
support.
All right, the motion's been made, supported. Questions? Yes, sir.
Bill Clayman, 1374 South Riverside. Where's the white out of? Where's the company out of?
Weiss Construction,
Yeah, where they located?
leave. I'll look it up right here.
That was Grand Rapids, but maybe not.
No, I'll look it up here. Relatively, no, I don't want to say it unless I know. They're from Michigan.
I understand that. I was just curious if they're in the county or outside the county
They're
or
not in the county.
not in the county. Do they self-perform?
Some of the work they do, the majority of the work here has been subcontracted.
Okay, they did give you a list of subcontractors?
Yes.
Any local contractors on that list?
I don't think so.
Mueller?
Any subcontractors, at least from St. Clair County?
That they're Novi.
Pardon me?
Weiss,
That's
they
not
look like
St.
they're
Clair,
from
okay.
Novi.
Well, I'm just curious then,
Yeah.
if any local contractor had a chance to bid on it, or if it's all gonna be out-of-county contractors?
It did go out to bid, correct? Yeah, so everyone had an opportunity to bid on it.
Yeah, it was a public bid that everybody had the
Yeah.
opportunity to bid on.
Well, it wasn't broke down, it was bid as a total package. It wasn't, this wasn't bid, you know what I'm saying? It was bid as a total package. I'm just curious if they use any local contractors.
Well, as a subcontractor, which I'm familiar with, you follow the jobs that you're interested in doing, and then you find out who's bidding those jobs, and you bid to them. So that could have easily been done.
Not to mention, I'm sure these contractors are very familiar with the Weiss. I'd rather have
What's that?
familiar subcontractors with the general contractor.
Well, can you rattle up, tell me a few subcontractors that are,
What's that?
can you tell me a few subcontractors on there that,
I don't know if I can or not.
why not? You're just awarded a bid. Public
Are we allowed
knowledge.
to- Are we allowed to?
Subcontractors listed. Weiss Construction is self-performing the mechanical work. Signatures taking care of the painting. DF Best is handling the electrical contract. Building Specialties and Masonry is HMC. Building Specialties and the roofing is to be determined. They're further scoping that out. And then instrumentation is MCET.
And this is a prevailing wage job, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, call the roll, please.
Swat,
Yes.
Scholar,
Yes.
Pufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Thank you. Let's go to number 7, Reports Administration. Mr. Bishop, we got you. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I just have two quick announcements. The last, actually 2 or 3 weeks has been all about preparing a budget. It's all about preparing the future and how we're going to be able to pay for some of these things that we're talking about tonight. Two things I wanted just to mention about our staff, which I think is very important. The first thing is that we met department head, each individual department head came into the office. We sat down, we looked at their budgets individually. We talked about their needs, we talked about their wants, we talked about the things that we can be pushing off to other years. We talked about immediate needs. We gave them the time and the space to be able to do that. I've received a lot of feedback that they appreciated that opportunity to sit down and have those discussions. And not only to have an opportunity for me to learn more about their needs and wants, but also about their future projects and how it all fits into this bigger puzzle. I think that was, I think it's really good to mention that our department heads are very, very concerned about their departmental budgets. Okay. The other thing I'd like to say is I know that we had our last board or council meeting here July 3rd. Very next day we had a fireworks show, and it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Brought the family into in. We're watching the show. We're walking up and down, and St. Clair Police Department, for the amount of people that they were managing, and if you were anywhere near downtown in the plaza, I mean, from Palmer Park, it was from rail to road people, rail to road. And our police force was out there not only monitoring, but they were making their constant rounds. They were in the community, talking with the community members, doing a fantastic job. I think that their presence alone for that many people, could really make or break, the success of the show. So hats off to our police department, and hats off to our special planning, and especially the fireworks committee. That was a 2-barred show, but not, I don't know how you're gonna top it, but phenomenal show. Phenomenal show.
It
And
just takes
DPW.
money.
Oh, yeah, hands off to DPW, setting it not only barricades, but crowd control, and just the day of, and making sure everything was right, and then the day after.
Clean
Nobody
up.
knows about 7 AM on July 4th.
The cleanup always
Right.
amaze me.
Cleanup
July
was
5th
awesome.
Was awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. They did a fantastic job, so hats off to the guys.
Any questions from Mr. Bishop? No questions from Mr. Downey tonight. Any city departments? Keith?
Mayor, council, I have a few things, so just sit back and I'll have you out here by breakfast. Okay, let's do this first because I think we got a couple of boys that want to get out of here. First, let me tell you, it's an honor to lead these guys and gals. They're very professional and dedicated to this city, and when you appointed me chief, it's an easy job, and it's fun to do, and you should be proud of this crew. And I want to commend Superintendent Bishop for recognizing the importance of this, because I'm going to promote Corporal Ennis to Sergeant Ennis tonight. You know, when we join the police academy, we work our butts off to get certified, and then we find a job and we work our butts off to get better. And for those of you that know Don, that's exactly what he's done. He's worked us, and he's very good at it, and so he is going to get promoted tonight. I'd like Alicia, his wife, and his boys. I don't know if his boys want to do it because they're going to spin. Alicia, you pin him with that sergeant's badge?
Awesome.
Thank you. Speech. I don't know if, I also want to recognize Jake Patchett. You know, 3 years ago during COVID, when we were doing virtual meetings, I promoted him to sergeant. And he's been working hard and never got the recognition, so I'm going to recognize him tonight, but I don't know if he's here.
He's right there.
Oh, there he is. I was looking for a uniform. The two of these guys, they sacrifice for this community all the time, and we sometimes forget about their spouses and kids that sacrifice time with their daddy and spouse. So I appreciate it, and I hope you appreciate their sacrifice. This promotion for Don is not just a step up some ladder, but it's actually, he earned it. Jake earned it. They're mentors, they're leaders, and when y'all interviewed me 6 years ago, I said that my goal was to make this place professional and the service the best it could be, and they helped me do that. So I just appreciate them, and I hope you appreciate them. Now there's another. If I could have Eric and Bradley come up here, they're going to love this. And Officer McClure. You know, sometimes teens get a bad rap because they get in trouble a lot. These two gentlemen, on July 4th, after the fireworks, they were at their residence and they heard screaming outside of their living room window. And they saw a male drag a female out of a car. So they ran to the female, scared off the male to keep him from beating her, and consoled her until police arrived. And I believe it's a result of Bradley and Eric's brave actions that they stopped any further injury to her, and also assisted Officer McClure in arresting the gentleman, taking him to the St. Clair County Jail where he was charged, and he will face the penalties. So thank you, gentlemen. And because of their kids, I got a couple of challenge coins, a certificate, and the owner of Murphy's heard about this, and he's got pizza coupons for the boys.
Your mom's gonna want your photo. That's good stuff.
We got to recognize their parents for raising some pretty good boys. All right, I got more.
Chief, before you leave that one, I had their mom and dad in school. I think it's more on the kids.
We've been getting a lot of, ever since we put those life rings out there, exactly what we thought would happen has been happening. People take them, people mess with them, and so I just want to, I put it out on our Facebook, but I want to make people aware that from this point forward, the law states that if you interfere with a marine safety device, it's a misdemeanor, a 93-day misdemeanor, which means you get fingerprinted and you can pay $500. If you mess with it and take it and it's not there to save someone's life, it's a felony. So we're going to start enforcing it. Hopefully people, if you see people messing with it, swimming with it, give us a call and we'll take care of it. But they keep missing. And for those of you who are listening, if you have one in your tiki bar or in your basement or on your pool, bring it back, please. And the last thing I have, it didn't require a special event permit, but Magical Touch Quick Lube this weekend, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, is having a customer appreciation thing. And the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is it's all on their property, but they will be putting up banners. They'll put up banners on the 19th, and they'll be down on the 22nd. So hot dogs, giveaways at the oil change place down here at 1116 Kearney. So, okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Hey, Chief, 4th of July, how was the activity in town?
Oh, we had 3 arrests. But the activity was a lot of people, a drunk driver, the gentleman that didn't like his girlfriend at the time, and what was the other? Was there one more? Another assault. So, all right.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Keep up the good work. Any other city departments? Okay, let's go to D, authorities, boards, committee chairs, council reps. Anybody have anything? They have no unfinished business. We'll go to 9, new business. A, approve proposal from Fishback for engineering services, sole source bid, LDFA. Mr. Bishop.
This is actually an LDFA action item. We simply are there to facilitate the conversation between the bidders and then those who are going to be awarded the work by the LDFA. The LDFA, this was created as part of the Magna project. The LDFA pays entirely for this particular proposal. So the LDFA has received the bid from Fishback. They have voted on it. They have approved it. This board simply needs to acknowledge that they are in receipt of the LDFA voting to approve. So we are then comfortable with having Fishback continue on with the work that they have been doing. Fishback is considered a sole source bidder because it's a continuation of the water treatment plant. They have the design, they have the engineering capacities, and it is simply a continuation of the work that they will be doing because the water main loop, the booster station, and elevated tank will be all tied back into the water treatment plant. So simply we are looking to accept the proposal that Fishback would be the sole source bidder on the project that the LDFA will ultimately be paying for.
So moved.
Support.
Questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Platt,
Yes.
Rattler,
Yes.
Lupa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. B, schedule budget workshop. We're looking to do a budget workshop next meeting at 6 o'clock, or what do you want?
I think an hour will do it. I'm okay with 6 o'clock, but
We'll have another one the week after, I'm sure, or 2 weeks after. Want to go earlier? 6 o'clock good, or?
7th at 6 o'clock.
okay?
Sounds good with me.
Okay.
I'll ask for a motion to set that.
So moved.
So move to support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6 o'clock, first meeting in August?
Already, yes.
All right. C, boards and commissions. I do have one. Wait. Do I have one?
Bill Clement, I thought.
What do I find? All right, so to the Cemetery Board of Trustees, appoint Bill Clement to fill a vacancy of a mid-3-year term that'll expire December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Kleeman. Claims and accounts number 10, June 6, 7/13, 2023.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 11, anybody have any public questions or comments? 3 minutes, please. Any non-agenda items you want to talk about? The Biscunner?
How you guys doing? I got a few concerns. When you started the project on Kearney Drive and you opened up Adams Street next to the gearing so it would help out with the traffic and stuff, are they gonna block that back off? That Adams Street is a dead-end street, correct? And what they did, they took them poles out so the people could come down our road. Those need to be put back. I mean, school's been out for a month, and we got kids coming, racing up down the road, coming through there. It's got to stop. So that, please put the posts back up. Also, the little ditch that runs along the road by my house, some of you guys know where I live, there's a big hole there where it ends, you know, where it ends, and then the rest is covered up. Well, there's a big hole there. They need to fix that, do something with it. I talked to a couple of the members before about it, I won't mention no names, about the hole there. Someone's gonna fall in it and get hurt. And that is city property. It's that little ditch that runs along the road there.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Bob. He said he was going to go look at it.
Okay, yeah, so you need to do something with that. That's dangerous. Okay, and the other thing is, behind my house, the property's been sold, okay, between Gearing and Eddy. And I'm curious, was that property sold again, from what I've been hearing? I heard it was originally sold to the Vinkner Group, but then I heard it was resold, just the property, not the buildings, just the property behind me. Is that a rumor, or is that a true story?
I don't know that the city's been notified of any sale, have we?
That's the very first I've heard of it, sir.
Okay, so nobody's heard of that. Okay, well, that's what I was told. I didn't know if it was true or not. Are we still putting assisted living back there behind me in like 3 or 4 phases, I heard?
I believe that's still the plan, but I think they may have shrunk the plan down a little bit.
Okay. But it is going to be assisted living versus houses or apartments. Okay, because I don't want that.
Thomas, whatever you want. What do you want?
Oh, yeah. I want to stay the way it is, because now they're going to chase all the animals out of there. But I know I can't stop that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill Claim at 1374 South Riverside. I was just curious if we had started sidewalk replacement and repair yet and crack sealing of our roads.
No, we haven't. I did speak with Bob Beeth about that. We have a sidewalk program in place, and we've actually started identifying the sidewalks to start repairing. In terms of the crack seal program is in place, and that is going to be occurring. To what extent and when, I will have to figure that timeline out, but yes, it's on.
The reason I ask on the crack sealing, now that I'm on the cemetery commission, they were on the list better than 2 years ago to get theirs done.
Oh,
And it still hasn't been done yet. Am I correct in that, or has it been done yet? Has it been sealed yet, the cracks at the cemetery? I was just curious if we're getting out there and, you know, I asked for a list of sidewalk replacement locations, and I asked, every year I ask for a list for crack sealing, and I get them, and I don't know if we're not doing it or what, but if we don't fix them, they're gonna fall apart, gentlemen. And we don't have money to fix them. We don't have money to replace them.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? All right, let's go to number 12, Mayor and Council. I have a couple things real quick. Congratulations, St. Clair Little League Major Girls 12 Under Softball Team State Champs. They head to Indiana next weekend to represent Michigan in the Little League World Series. That's cool. I do want to thank Dave Lenarski and Mike Laporte, our fireworks committee. Always looking for new members.
More money.
And more money, yeah. Well, I always figure just saying your name means more money.
That's not nice.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to mention that tomorrow night, Tuesday, is the bike parade. Okay? And I'd also like to mention that the last week in July, everybody put on their patience hat. It's boat race time, so be aware of where traffic is, and we'll get through the weekend.
Do we have an update regarding Kearney?
I actually talked to Ralph Lislington today, and he said it will be done before boat races.
I hope so.
Say that again a little louder.
I don't really want to, but he said it will be, I looked right and says, is it gonna be done for the boat races? It'll be done before the boat races.
They'll be outside of contract if they don't make it, correct?
I don't know. Anything else, anybody?
August 5th is the Mardi Gras party at the Boat Harbor,
Thank you. August 5th.
and Chris Paul's birthday.
5-0.
Sneak that one under the fence. Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Report.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Everybody have a good night. You two boys, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Pass that down.